Learn how to make this stunning altered book art journal with a magnetic closure on Hey Ma! Those of you who have seen some of my tutorials where I use books will know that I use old reference books because the material is usually dated, or if it's a school book, it's usually battered and pretty much useless at that point anyway. So I like to try to give it new life. So what I'm doing here is looking for the folios where they're stitched into the spine of the book. Once I find the center of the folio, I take the two folded sheets in the middle where it's stitched to the spine, and I just tear that out. And by doing this, I reduce the size of the book by 4 pages. Ultimately, the book started 600 pages, and I was able to reduce that dramatically. And I'm just pulling out like 2 threads. Almost done. I'm taking out 5. You see how thin it is now? It's so little. And it's 600 pages. This is a 600 page book. Another thing that might be fun to play around with would be to make different thicknesses. So if you know later on you're gluing, for instance, I was gluing 5 pages together, sometimes 3. You might have just some pages that are thinner with only 2 pages glued together, and that would affect how many you tear out. Alright, so when all is said and done, this is how thin the book is. It's still got a lot of pages, but I'm going to glue these pages together, and that will make it significantly smaller. And this is what we took out. And I'll save this because I'll probably make like a dress or something like that for a doll out of that. Worst case scenario, my daughter burns it in the fireplace. But I like to see, like, you could see all the different registries now. Alright, time to start gluing. Okay, the gluing. It's pretty simple. I use regular tap water. I added white glue, probably about 40% water and 60% glue. But you can kind of play that by ear. If it's too thick, add a little water. If it's too thin and you don't feel like it's getting good stick, then add more glue. Mix that up really well and you're good to go. I keep these old popsicle sticks. Like, these are a little bit thicker than regular popsicle sticks that you buy. These are from like my keto, whatever, ice cream bars. And they're just great for mixing things up. Just a little FYI. But anyway, after the glue is all thoroughly mixed, I used a paintbrush to apply it to the pages. So there's only kind of one rule with painting on this glue. I don't remember who it was, but I did see a video where they recommended that you start from the back of the book just because of the way that the pages lay. And that really works because I did have a couple of dodgy books that I did and they just never laid flat. But if you start at the back, it does seem to solve that problem. So I just started at the back and I painted on the glue, and then I smoothed it out the best I could. Later on, I found that if I painted it, say like I'm painting on the right side, it was more effective to kind of fold it over like that and push it to the left and smooth it that way, and it just came out with a better effect. But do whatever's best for the book that you have and your technique. So another thing that you might want to do is if you have a brayer, which I don't know where mine is, but I do have this handy wooden kind of roller, or anything, even if you use like a roller from the kitchen. That also helps to smooth out the pages. Keep in mind, this is going to be an art journal, so it's going to be a little bit, my art journals are not works of art. They are experimental things where anything basically goes. They're kind of hodgepodge, and I do a lot of decoupage in them, and I do a lot of it's messy. That'll work. So that'll be one page. And I'm gonna keep on going. At this point, the book is completely glued and dry. This is just a little bit of what it's looking like at this point. Like I said, it's going to be a little bit sloppy. That's just the nature of my art journals. I fix them as I go. Moving on, we're getting to the fun part. I'm looking for materials now. I want to put material on the binder along the back, and I also want to put material on the inside where the cover meets the meat of the book, if you will, just to make it stronger and to look better where you might be able to see in that scene. So I'm just going through. I have many boxes of remnants like this, and I'm just going through which fabrics I would like to use for this project. Okay, it seems like we have two winners. So I'm really liking this striped fabric for the binder of the book, and the gold will be on the interior. Now I have to pick out the papers that I want to use to cover the book. The idea for this project was because I have so many art supplies that I haven't even opened. This package of paper I got from Michael's for I think $5.97, normally $19.99, and I've never opened them, and they're beautiful. I was dead set on finding patterns that I wanted to use for this project, because that's the whole idea. I want to use all these old books I've been holding on to, all of this fabric that's just accumulating, and all of these new supplies that I never touched. This is the pattern I'm going with. I really do like that kind of checkered pattern. There were a couple of was it in this book? You know, what's funny, I never even used those gold ones. They're really beautiful, but I never used them. There's just so many really nice patterns that would have gone with this material as well. But I kind of had a vision. Look at this. I am for sure doing a project with that color. I love that color. And there's just a lot of these are embossed with gold. These books, they just really have great patterns. I will try to link some Park Lane paper on the Maaa supply page at our website, which is a nice reminder. If you haven't visited our website, all of these videos are over there. I am working on fleshing it out with blogs of detailed procedures for all the comments that I get sometimes that people want more detail. It's a long process. I have over 200 videos, and the other thing that we have on the website is a supply page where with our Amazon affiliates, I do try to link most of the things that we use, and I do purchase a lot of things other than thrifting. I purchase a lot of things through Amazon, so I do try to link them there when I can and when I remember. And using the affiliate links, of course, does support Maaa. No cost to you. It is a nice way to give us a little nod and show that you like what we're doing. Another thing about these Park Lane books that I really like, they have these little teeny sayings and things that you can cut out and use on your projects as well. This is the plan. Okay, so I got this from a thrift store. I don't know how much I paid, maybe $5. It's a big, thick block of paper, and I thought it was good contrast. with what I was doing. It kind of matched, but it was also a contrast. So I really got in my mind that I wanted to use this paper. So that's the one I went with. Mostly for the back and the interior of the book, I wanted to have that kind of check pattern for the front. But again, you see how big this stack is. I found this at my thrift store, my local thrift store. It's just, you cannot beat thrift stores for craft supplies. I love going in there. I have spent insane amounts of money. You have to be careful. It's very hard to remember what your budget is, maybe, and maybe not to add to your stash for no reason. But on the other hand, I have also discovered really great crafts by going to craft stores and finding things that I did not know what they were for. That's my little spiel. Okay, back to the project. This is a different type of video for me. It's kind of a little bit rambly, but I think it has a lot of tips, more tutorial-like. So you can let me know in the comments whether you prefer this type of video, shorter videos, silent videos. You know, you can tell me to shut up. No, please don't do that. It'll hurt my feelings. Okay, so what I'm doing here is cutting the fabric for the spine of the book. Have I been calling it a spine here? I probably have. The spine of the book. And I'm just going to glue that on there. I think I used a matte gel. I used a matte gel medium to glue that on there. And I do the same right here where the interior cover meets the first page of the book. So I'm just going to cut those pieces of fabric out and glue them on. The next step is just measuring your book and cutting out the papers to cover the book. And this is going to depend on what other kind of embellishments you're putting on. It's pretty much your creative place. You don't have to do anything specific or streamlined. You can do anything you want. This is your journal. Have fun. I use this Fiskar Shortcut portable paper cutter, and this can be found on Amazon for a very reasonable price. One recommendation I would say is to measure the exterior cover separately from the interior cover if you are planning on covering the inside, because the measurements will be different. And that's what I'm doing here. Okay, after everything is all cut out, you're going to have to glue it down. I used this Liquitex heavy body matte gel. I found that it works really well. I use the matte because when it dries with a fabric, it doesn't get that kind of glossy coat that shows that it's been glued. So even though while it's wet, it does darken the fabric, I found that it does lighten up when it's dry. All I'm going to do is paint on this gel and press the fabric down. I do go over some areas where I didn't clean up the edges of the fabric, and that's because it's going to be covered. So what I did was kind of paint down the edges. Here I'm actually using the gel to create a seam, because this is going to be on the spine of the book, and so those little flyaways would be unraveling or showing at least. So I just kind of glued them down. I glued them under. The edges here where you see the threads and everything will be covered up with paper. So I just used the gel to smooth them down so that they will stay flat as possible, kind of like feathering them down. This is just me gluing it over the spine, and after this I'll be ready to glue down the paper. This product is really easy to use, and I would have used it to glue the pages together, but it's a little bit more pricey than regular white glue. Before I glued down the paper, I did edge some of the sheets with some chalk fluid edger ink in the color, I think it's called Wall Teak or something like that. And the other one I used was, I think it's called Garden Grass. Garden Grass. So I use those to kind of just define the edges. Here you can catch a glimpse of my brilliant idea for a magnetic closure. I used a mending plate, just the same thing we would get from Home Depot for about $1, and I glued it horizontally. My thinking behind this was, as I add art to my art journal, it's going to start to get bigger, and I want it to have a sliding scale almost of how I can close it. So you'll see at the end I use a magnet for the closure, and that magnet can adjust over time as the journal gets bigger. Next, I added these metal corner protectors. I found these on Amazon for about $12 for 120 of them, so 10 cents each. You use 4 per book, so you can get a good 30 projects out of that $12. And you also have a variety of colors. Pretty good deal. I attached that with E6000, the OP MVP of crafting. After a few ribbons, I thought the front was pretty much done for what I wanted to do. I used that matte gel again to attach tulle to the back cover before I added the paper, just to make sure that it stays secure. I also added some ribbon on top of the tulle that's going to form our closure. So I do want to make sure that it is very secure on the back cover. My idea for this closure was because I had this antique fabric rose, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I hid a rare earth magnet in the fabric, and what I actually do is glue it with the E6000. And then I attach that to the ribbon, and that makes the closure. That's what I'm doing here. Pretty neat, because the rose just seems decorative, but it's actually a closure. So it's all done. There is a magnet, you see? This is how it looks from the back. It's not completely dry, but you can get a gist of what it's about. This is that magnet. It sticks on right there, like that. And then it's got the decorations, so this is what it looks like. It's still kind of wet, but it's an art journal, so it's okay that it's like sloppy. This is going to be covered in gesso or tissue paper or texture paste. It's meant to be like used looking. You see this? And I just love it because it's like making something out of absolutely nothing. It's probably my daughter. Yes, that's my daughter. That's the back cover. And I might put like stickers on here eventually. I was thinking of putting like a little cameo thing. I love it. You see the magnet? Woo! So when it gets like really big and fat, even when it's like super fat, it sticks like even that far. So because I put that bar, so right now it's like this because there's nothing in it, but once it starts getting fat and fat and fat, I can kind of even move that over. And eventually it'll be over here. That's why I didn't put anything, because it's like it'll change, right? And it's just like a piece of tulle and then a piece of ribbon over the tulle that kind of just matches, and it's just, it's so nice. It's so nice. Whenever possible, we do try to leave all of the supplies that we use on our website. The link is below. If our crafts inspire you, don't forget to leave a like. If our DIYs motivate you to do it yourself, consider subscribing to Maaa. Thanks for staying to the very end. Bye.